Hi everybody, welcome to Jin's Wall Street News. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Wednesday that the headline consumer price index increased 0.5% in January from a month ago, above expectations of a 0.3% gain. Niles investment management founder Dan Niles had an interview with CNBC on Wednesday after the CPI report and said, quote, "I think one more print, you got a problem," unquote. 10-year Treasury yield jumps above 4.6% after the CPI report was released. For the U.S. stocks, S&P 500 fell 0.27%, while the Nasdaq Composite inched higher 0.03% Wednesday. Hyperscalers like Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon are planning to spend approximately $79.4 billion in the first quarter 2025, up 2.9% sequentially, based on their earnings releases. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Wednesday that the headline consumer price index increased 0.5% in January from a month ago, up 3% over the last 12 months, above expectations. The core CPI, excluding food and energy, advanced 0.4% monthly, up 3.3% from the previous year, higher than expectations of a 3.1% increase. The BLS said, quote, "The index for shelter rose 0.4% in January, accounting for nearly 30% of the monthly all items increase. The energy index rose 1.1% over the month, as the gasoline index increased 1.8%, unquote. The index for used cars and trucks increased 2.2%, while the index for apparel decreased 1.4% in January. Niles Investment Management founder Dan Niles had an interview with CNBC on Wednesday after the CPI report and said, quote, "It comes down to when does Jerome Powell go, I might have a problem because CPI has now gone up for 4 prints in a row in terms of headline. Core PCE, which is what they focus on, bottomed in June. It's been going up since then, not in a straight line, but it's higher. All the 4 measures of inflation, PCE, core PCE, CPI, and core CPI, all of that either bottomed in June or in the third quarter and has been going up. I'm gonna be very curious to see if Powell makes the same mistake twice. I don't think he will, and I think one more print, you got a problem." So, if you look at the chart for the headline CPI, you can find the CPI is rising 4 months in a row, and it bottomed in June. 10-year Treasury yield jumped above 4.6% as investors were shocked by the harder-than-expected CPI report. Now investors are waiting for the Producer Price Index, scheduled to be released at 8:30 a.m. Thursday. For the U.S. stocks, S&P 500 fell 0.27%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 0.5%. Both the tech-heavy Nasdaq inched higher 0.03% Wednesday. As most of you probably know, Hyperscalers, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Alphabet are planning to invest up to $325 billion in 2025, up 41% from $231 billion in 2024. So we can estimate NVIDIA's revenue growth in 2025 year over year. But be careful, Stargate was excluded in the list because I'm not sure how much it's going to spend in 2025. In addition, I summarized capital expenditures from the hyperscalers for Q1 2025 based on their earnings releases. Microsoft announced $22 billion for the previous quarter and $80 billion for fiscal 2025, so you can get $19 billion for the current quarter. But the company CFO Amy Hood said during the conference call, quote, "We expect quarterly spend in Q3 and Q4 to remain at similar levels as our Q2 spend," unquote. So I wrote down $22 billion as a maximum amount, and then you can get the midpoint of $20.5 billion, down 6.8% sequentially. In case of Meta, the company announced $60 to $65 billion for CapEx 2025. So I divide 60 and 65 by 4, then I get $15 billion to $16.25 billion, the midpoint of $15.6 billion, up 5.1% from $14.84 billion in Q4 2024. When it comes to Amazon, the company CEO Andrew Jassy said, quote, $26.3 billion in CapEx in Q4, and I think that is reasonably representative of what you could expect in annualized CapEx rate in 2025, unquote. So $26.3 billion for Amazon. Alphabet CFO Anat Eshkenazi said during the conference call, quote, "We expect to invest approximately $75 billion in CapEx in 2025, with approximately $16 billion to $18 billion of that in the first quarter," unquote. So the midpoint is $17 billion, up 21.4% from $14 billion. In total, you can get CapEx for Q1 in the range of $76.3 billion to $82.6 billion, the midpoint of $79.4 billion, up 2.9% from $77.14 billion in Q4 2024. So you can estimate NVIDIA's revenue growth for the current quarter. Okay, this is the end of today's news. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.